You've probably heard of these names before: Pablo Escobar, John Dillinger, Bonnie and Clyde, Osama bin Laden. But what most people never think about is this: they all had one final day, one final night, one final hour before everything ended. And in most cases, it didn't end the way they expected. Because power doesn't usually disappear in a moment of glory. It disappears in silence, and sometimes in betrayal. Let's start with one of the most famous criminals in history, Pablo Escobar. But the real story doesn't begin with his death. It begins with isolation. By late 1993, Escobar was no longer the man who controlled Colombia. He was a fugitive hiding in a small middle-class house in Medellin. No empire, no army, just one bodyguard, and constant fear. Because everyone was hunting him. The DEA, Colombian forces, rival cartels, even former allies. And then came the moment that changed everything. A simple phone call from his own family. They were calling to wish him a delayed birthday. But they didn't know something critical. Every second of that call was being tracked. Hidden DEA technology picked up his radio signal. And slowly, it narrowed down his exact location. One building, one roof, one man. Minutes later, the house was surrounded. Escobar ran, barefoot, across a red-tiled roof, trying to escape one last time. But there was nowhere left to go. He jumped. A bullet hit his leg, then another, and then the final shot ended it. The man who once controlled billions died on a rooftop, alone. But Escobar wasn't the only one who underestimated how endings happen. Decades earlier, John Dillinger learned the same lesson. He wasn't hiding in fear, he was living normally, going to movies, walking the streets of Chicago, even laughing like nothing could touch him. But someone close to him had already made a choice. A woman beside him, Anna Sage. She had traded his location for her freedom. That night, Dillinger walked out of a theater. It was just another evening, until he noticed something outside. Men waiting, watching. He ran, but he didn't get far. 3 shots, 1 fatal hit, and suddenly, the most wanted man in America was gone. Right outside a movie theater, a place where people go to escape reality. But what about the most romantic criminals in history? Bonnie and Clyde didn't die quietly. They died in a storm of bullets, but the trap had been set for weeks. A hidden ambush, a fake broken-down truck on a roadside in Louisiana. They thought they were stopping to help, but instead, they stopped into history. The first shot hit Clyde instantly. Bonnie screamed, but there was no escape. Over 100 bullets were fired in less than a minute. And when it ended, the scene was almost surreal. Half a sandwich still in Bonnie's lap, as if life had paused mid-moment. But not all endings happen in the open. Some happen in silence, behind prison walls. Whitey Bulger spent 16 years on the run. He was untouchable, until he wasn't. When he was finally caught, he was 89 years old, in a wheelchair, weak, old, no longer the man who ruled Boston streets. But his reputation followed him inside prison, and inside those walls, there are no legends, only targets. Within hours, 2 inmates entered his cell. And 7 minutes later, it was over. No headlines inside, no escape outside. Just silence. And then there are endings controlled by the system itself. Saddam Hussein, once the ruler of Iraq, ended his life standing on a gallows. No army, no palace, no authority, only witnesses. And a camera recording everything in secret. He refused the hood. He spoke. He even laughed at his executioners. But in the end, the trapdoor opened mid-prayer, and history turned a page. Some endings are not emotional. They are mechanical. Timothy McVeigh didn't resist his final hours. He accepted them. Ice cream, silence, a poem, no apology, no fear, just waiting, until the moment came. And then, it ended. And then there was the most hunted man in modern history, Osama bin Laden. For nearly a decade, he was invisible. Until one night in Pakistan, everything collapsed in minutes. A hidden compound, a quiet bedroom, a whisper to his wife, "Don't turn on the light." Seconds later, the raid began, and when it ended, he was gone, removed from the world he had changed forever. But when you put all these stories together, you start to notice something. It doesn't matter how powerful someone becomes. It doesn't matter how long they run, or how far they go. Because every story eventually reaches the same point. A final hour, a final decision, a final moment where everything stops. And the most terrifying part? Most of them never saw it coming. Not Escobar, not Dillinger, not Bonnie and Clyde, not even bin Laden. Because history doesn't end with warning, it ends with timing. And sometimes, the last thing someone ever experiences is the exact moment they realize it's already over.